Hello, it's 9 a.m. in Warsaw, and this is World News on TVP World. I'm Marie Cato. Polish President Karol Nawrocki says his country should consider its own nuclear deterrent to counter the escalating Russian threat. In a recent television interview, Nawrocki argued that Poland's security strategy must evolve to include a nuclear project to ensure long-term regional stability and a broader role in international nuclear sharing. In an interview with private broadcaster Polsat, the president said that building Poland's nuclear potential while respecting all international treaties is the essential path the country must take to safeguard its borders. Dismissing concerns over a backlash from the Kremlin, Nawrocki cited Russia's aggressive imperial attitude and Poland's proximity to active conflict as the primary drivers for this shift. His remarks echo a growing debate across the continent as leaders in Latvia and Germany similarly explore the need for a sovereign European nuclear deterrent. Attacks by Russian forces on Ukraine's northeastern Sumy region have damaged a children's rehabilitation center and wounded 4 people.
The regional governor said the Saturday to Sunday overnight attack was the second time Moscow's troops had struck the health facility in the past week. The drone strike was one of a series of attacks that took place across the region. The Kiev Independent reports that 3 women and 1 man were wounded in the strikes.
Ukraine is expecting new military support from the West, according to an announcement President Volodymyr Zelenskyy made during his nightly address on Sunday, following his return from the Munich Security Conference. Protection against ballistic missiles remains at the top of the list.
There will be new support packages for Ukraine. The key priority is missiles for air defense, especially to protect against ballistic threats. This has been the #1 issue throughout the winter, as you know. In Munich, we raised this topic with virtually every leader who can genuinely help us, including US Secretary of State Marco Rubio. We hope the agreements will work as needed. Air defense is a daily necessity.
Former Ukrainian Energy Minister Herman Halushchenko was arrested while reportedly attempting to flee Ukraine on Sunday, the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine has confirmed. The arrest is linked to a corruption scandal plaguing the country's energy sector. Halushchenko was pulled off a train by Ukraine's border guard acting on Nabu's orders as part of an operation dubbed Midas, according to an official statement. Halushchenko resigned from his post as energy minister in November last year after it was revealed that he was one of the main figures involved in a money laundering scheme at state-owned energy company Energoatom. The scheme, allegedly orchestrated by a former business partner of President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, took kickbacks of up to 15% from energy contracts, totaling around $100 million. Latvian President Edgars Rinkēvičs said in an exclusive interview with TVP World that the, quote, post-Cold War world order is over due to Russian expansionism. He added that both Europe and the United States are crucial for shoring up the defenses of the Baltic region.
The Chancellor Volodymyr and Secretary Marco Rubio, both they mentioned that we live in a new age of geopolitics. And Volodymyr also said that this is a new age of great powers politics now, which is, departure from the rules-based order. Well, where does it leave countries like Latvia?
Well, I think that the post-Cold War era is over, and that world order has gone. And it's gone, not, let's say, last year here at Munich. It's gone by the Russian invasion of Georgia, of the occupation of Crimea, of a war that has started 4 years ago, the full-scale war that Russia started against Ukraine. When asked what's our defense, I'm saying the first, it's our national defense. Second, it's regional defense, including our Nordic-Baltic partners, Poland and Germany, as the Baltic Sea. Third, it's Europe. Fourth, it's transatlantic relationship, because we do see that, well, there is a lot of rhetoric, but there is also a lot of practical cooperation with the United States and Canada going on.
British Foreign Minister Yvette Cooper says the UK is considering fresh sanctions against Moscow for the poisoning of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny. The UK, Sweden, France, Germany and the Netherlands announced over the weekend they had determined that Navalny's death 2 years ago was most likely the result of poisoning using dart frog toxins arranged by the Russian state. Cooper said on Sunday that the accusation against Russia was deeply serious and a product of 2 years of evidence gathering. Russia's embassy in London has denied Moscow's involvement in Navalny's death. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is visiting Slovakia and Hungary at a pivotal moment for transatlantic unity, seeking closer cooperation with two governments that often chart an independent course within the European Union. The talks, focused on energy and NATO commitments, come as both countries maintain warm ties with President Donald Trump, bringing fresh attention to Washington's engagement in the region.
Rubio began his two-day diplomatic tour through Central Europe and Bratislava, holding high-level talks with Slovakian President Peter Pellegrini to discuss regional security and NATO commitments.
My first ever meeting with Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Bratislava reaffirms the unbreakable bond between Slovakia and the United States, both bilaterally and within NATO. Defense cooperation continues to be essential in the modernization of Slovakia's armed forces, thus contributing to a more robust NATO deterrence and defense, and to a stronger and more confident Europe.
A central pillar of the visit is energy cooperation, specifically a potential €15 billion deal for the U.S. company Westinghouse to build a new nuclear power plant in Slovakia. Slovakian Prime Minister Robert Fico, who recently met with President Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago, remains a key ally for the administration. Energy prices are an important part of his agenda.
On February 13th, an intergovernmental agreement between the US and Slovakia regarding nuclear cooperation entered into force. I informed the Secretary of where we stand. We have huge interest in creating a multinational consortium under an American partner to guarantee that by 2040, Slovakia could build another nuclear block with a 1,200 megawatt capacity.
Fico also highlighted Slovakia's disagreement with most of Europe on Ukraine.
Slovakia has its own original unique positions that do not always align with our EU partners. This is part of our sovereignty. I clearly stated our view of the conflict to the Secretary. We believe it will continue for quite a long time. We do not see a path to peaceful conclusion in the short term.
On Monday, Rubio will travel from Bratislava to Budapest to meet with Prime Minister Viktor Orban, another leader the U.S. administration views as a model for conservative governance.
From all the European countries that Rubio could have chosen for his trip, he decided to go to Bratislava and Hungary. And again, as I say, Marco Rubio has met Prime Minister Fico just a couple of weeks ago in Mar-a-Lago with Donald Trump at their meeting in Florida. So him coming back so early to Slovakia is a deliberate step on the side of the United States. And yes, as you say, these countries are the most visible troublemakers, so to say, in the European family.
For TVP World, Randy Potts.
Scores of Russian trawlers are engaged in large-scale illegal fishing within the exclusive economic zones of West African countries. The profits, totaling over $10 billion, are reportedly used to finance Moscow's war in Ukraine.
According to ADF, a military magazine published by the U.S. Africa Command, Russia's illegal fishing brings estimated $11.2 billion annually in losses to Africa, with West Africa accounting for $9.4 billion of those losses. Africa's fishing stock is already dangerously depleted, and Moscow's predatory exploitation of its waters is further worsening the situation. Russia is among the countries most often accused of illegal fishing, second only to China.
The U.S. is reportedly preparing for the possibility of weeks-long operations against Iran, should President Trump give the order. This comes as U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are set to negotiate with Iran in Geneva on Tuesday, with representatives from Oman acting as mediators.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio cautioned on Saturday that while Trump's preference was to reach a deal with Tehran, that's very hard to do. The U.S. has been amassing forces in the Middle East for weeks, starting with the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier, followed by an additional aircraft carrier, thousands more troops, along with fighter aircraft and guided missile destroyers. On Friday, Trump openly floated the possibility of changing the government in Iran.
North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un has taken part in a ceremony celebrating the completion of new housing for families of troops who died in overseas military operations.
North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un has taken part in a completion ceremony of new housing for families of troops who died in overseas military operations. According to state media agency KCNA, Kim said the new district in the capital, Pyongyang, symbolized the spirit and sacrifice of the dead soldiers. Under a mutual defense pact with Russia, North Korea has sent 14,000 soldiers to fight alongside Russian troops against Ukraine. More than 6,000 of these troops have been killed, according to South Korean, Ukrainian, and Western sources.
Poland's unofficial Winter Olympics mascot continues to win over hearts all around the world. In the US, the only store offering the original pierogushka has run out of stock as fans have rushed to get their hands on the pieróg plushie.
All pierogushka stock is gone at the Pierożek restaurant in Brooklyn. The traditional Polish eatery, which happens to be the only Michelin star Polish restaurant in the US, is the only place that stocks the viral mascot in the US.
We've got hundreds, if not thousands, of emails I would have to actually check, and lots of phone calls, but unfortunately, they literally sold out overnight.
The mascot became a global hit after a picture of Polish athletes holding the adorable plushie went viral on social media.
It's our international logo, so to speak.
I love to see people embracing our culture and celebrating it.
The viral mascot is made by the Katowice-based company Luft. The pillows are handmade by people with disabilities, and the company is made up of just over a dozen people.
The Warsaw Philharmonic presented an ambitious program over the past 2 evenings, featuring 2 rarely performed large-scale works. One of them, Dmitri Shostakovich's 13th Symphony, drew strong interest from classical music audiences, prompting a discussion about the position of the Russian repertoire in Poland's leading national concert hall. Karina Shapland reports.
The Valentine's Day concert at the Warsaw Philharmonic opened with a work by the French composer Olivier Messiaen, written for an all-female choir and intended to evoke a vision of divine love. The mood then changed. More than 50 bass voices, joined by a soloist and a full orchestra, took to the stage. Referred to as the Babi Yar Symphony, it is a major 20th century work by the Russian composer Dmitri Shostakovich. The piece recalls the mass killing of Jews outside Kiev during the Second World War. Since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the performance of Russian music in Poland has become a sensitive issue for cultural institutions and audiences alike. For the evening's conductor, Maestro Metzmacher, the symphony's subject matter makes it particularly relevant at a time like this.
Especially when there's talk about somebody knocking at your door, which is this image which Shostakovich took with him all his life. The fear that somebody would come and arrest him. And then the music always is so strong.
Others, including the musicologist Professor Edward Sielicki, point out that Shostakovich spent much of his life under pressure from the Soviet state.
It must be remembered that he was a tragic figure. He was a victim of Stalin's terrible repressive regime, which destroyed artists. Shostakovich lived in such a context of fear.
For Ukrainian musicians, decisions about repertoire during a war with Russia can be especially difficult, involving far-reaching artistic and personal considerations.
Since the war in Ukraine began, I have stopped performing Russian music. For a long time, this was the rule in Poland as well, in theaters and philharmonics, though recently that started to change and Russian repertoire is being played again. For me, stepping back from performing Russian works is a personal choice, and it comes at a cost.
Similar questions were on the minds of some members of the audience here tonight.
It pains me a great deal that his pieces are performed so rarely, in fact, almost never. As a symbol of resistance against imperialist Russia, Shostakovich should be played at least once a month.
As Polish audiences and cultural institutions continue to weigh these questions, the debate over how to approach Russian composers remains unsolved.
That's all for World News right now, but do stay with us. There's plenty more coming up this morning. Goodbye.